1 year ago today, thousands of New York State correction officers walk off the job, the state's second ever wildcat strike.
Officers pointed to low pay, forced overtime, and a law limiting solitary confinement. The National Guard was called in and remains inside state prisons today. News Channel 9's Rachel Polanski takes a closer look at the HALT Act and the safety debate that continues 1 year after the strike.
At Mohawk Correctional, the night shift was moving toward lockdown.
And that's when the dorm's supposed to be quiet.
But that night, it wasn't. The last thing Joe Cicino remembers, 2 inmates running toward him. Then everything went black.
All of a sudden, I was getting stomped on by the inmate. And then the other inmate came and pulled him off me before he could kill me because he did yell and say he was going to kill me.
The former correction officer would later learn that he was hit in the back of the head with a fire extinguisher, an injury that would end his career.
Both my arms, both shoulders, lower back and upper back, issues.
So you said you can't work anymore?
I'm permanently and totally disabled, yep.
Cicino says his attack was not an isolated incident, but part of a growing problem inside state prisons. From 2019 through 2024, state data shows assaults on staff jumping 86%.
I heard his sneakers squeal on the floor, and next thing you know, I was hit in my mouth here.
Retired correction officer Eric Wing shares a similar story. Though his assault at Auburn Correctional was less severe, it left a lasting impact.
I hit my head and my right thumb was dislocated.
It drove him to the picket line last year, but he says his reason was bigger than his injury.
We have been trying to getting the state's attention for 2 years before that, since HALT was officially implemented.
To understand the strike, you have to understand the HALT Act. Signed into law in 2021, it puts limits on the use of solitary confinement designed to reduce harm to inmates. But some local lawmakers, including State Senator Joe Griffo, believe the law as it's currently written puts correction officers at greater risk.
We've got to understand and accept that there's a problem, and we've got to address it and fix it. I mean, this isn't the Shawshank Redemption. When you look at solitary, a lot of people look at it and call it inhumane, but if you look at it now, it actually just isolates a problem.
Right now, the HALT Act caps solitary time at 15 days. As Cicino sees it, that means no long-term consequences for inmates, and not much to lose by acting out.
It's a free game. If they want to assault staff, they're going to go do it. And there's no, extra added time, so they have nothing to worry about.
It is a bold-faced lie.
Jerome Wright is a prison reform advocate. He says that claim is wrong because the law does not just return people to general population after 15 days.
If they need to be staying longer than that, they are placed in what is called an RRU, a residential rehabilitation unit, where they get congregate meals, congregate activities, programming. There's no cap on it. The cap is on isolation.
And Wright knows the system firsthand. He spent 30 years in prison for second-degree murder and manslaughter, 7 of those years spent in solitary confinement. He calls it torture.
I submit that the greatest torture is the psychological torture that you endure while you're in solitary confinement.
He says isolation does not change behavior. Alternatives do.
Education works, programming works, treatment works, community outreach and coming in, peer education works, mentorship. These are the things that change people's behaviors.
The bill's author, State Senator Julia Salazar, agrees, saying the law still allows discipline for serious offenses.
They're still separated from the general population. They can still have privileges taken away from them.
Assaults on staff have doubled.
Still, Senator Griffo pushed to repeal the HALT Act last year. It failed in committee. Now he's trying again this legislative session.
Are you optimistic that this bill will go anywhere this year?
I don't believe it will. I can look at it with cautious optimism, but it's unlikely.
News Channel 9 spoke with the corrections commissioner in October, who said last year's strike highlighted the challenge of balancing inmate rehabilitation, staffing, and safety inside prisons. After weeks of negotiations, most officers returned to work. About 2,000 did not and were fired, further straining an already thin workforce. The impact is clear. New York had about 19,000 correction officers in 2019. By the end of 2025, just over 11,000 remained. The commissioner says the department is now in rebuild mode with aggressive recruitment, hiring incentives, and a new HALT committee reviewing possible changes to the controversial law.
Clearly, when we write laws and the legislature enacts them, we don't get it right the first time. Through the HALT committee, we've identified real things that'll drive safety for both staff and incarcerated.
In September, that committee submitted recommendations aimed at making prisons safer while preserving the HALT Act's rehabilitative goals. But Jerome Wright says the problem is not the law, it's how it's being carried out.
I broke the law, I had consequences. They talk about no consequences, they're not talking about HALT, they're talking about their refusal to implement HALT.
As a new legislative session begins, these proposals remain under review.
We're having more and more assaults on staff, and they're getting more vicious.
For the people who have worked and lived inside prisons, the debate is not theoretical, it's personal.
This is people's lives.
For now, about 3,000 National Guard members continue working inside state prisons, a temporary fix as the state decides what comes next. An independent audit of the strike and its aftermath is also underway. The Department of Corrections tells me results are expected soon. And while assaults on staff have dropped between 2024 and 2025, what caused that decline and whether it will last remains an open question. Rachel Polanski, News Channel 9.
Download the WSYR Plus app on your TV to stream News Channel 9 for free. Just go to your smart TV, search WSYR Plus in the App Store, and download to start streaming today.